Brothers and sisters, the response to Gayle King's interview with Lisa Leslie contains many elements that I think are deeply and profoundly problematic. To begin with, I loved Kobe Bryant and mourn him to this day. I knew him well. We had a tremendous relationship and friendship. The last game he played in Washington, D.C., I was there and he gave me a profound and long hug that is captured on video. I wrote the essay in Slam magazine, the cover story on Kobe Bryant when he retired, calling him the best ever. So I love him, appreciate him, and more especially love what he did with his life after that horrendous event in Colorado. Many people, me included, believed Kobe Bryant when he said he did not rape that young lady. And yet he apologized to her because he recognized that though he thought it was a moment of consent, she did not. And instead of attempting to demonize her, he owned up to his own complicity in a situation that led this young woman to believe that he had done something to her against her will. And in confessing his own apology, he did not say that he raped her. He did not believe he did. He believed, therefore, in retrospect, that she did, and owned up to acknowledging the horrendous consequences of what happened. And not only did he give an apology, his life changed in the aftermath. When you notice Kobe Bryant's trajectory from that moment on, here was a man who was deeply and profoundly committed to his wife. He confessed his adultery to her. He apologized for that in public as well. And then he went on to have 4 daughters with her and to embrace women's sport, and to make certain that his own life was a testimony to the profound transformation that he endured as a young black man in America, and embracing his responsibilities. Yes, he acknowledged that there had to be change, a paradigm shift in his own life. And he didn't have to say that. He evidenced it in his own life, in his own living and transformation. And so I understand people who are deeply and profoundly upset at that interview between Gayle King and Lisa Leslie. I understand that. And there's a legitimate platform to be had by questioning whether Miss King should have raised it in that fashion. But think about it this way. Without her having raised it, Lisa Leslie would not have had the opportunity to speak to it in a profoundly compelling and cogent fashion, because Gayle King was not the only person asking that question. I didn't notice this venomous outrage by black celebrities and stars against the young white woman reporter from the Washington Post who didn't simply ask a question about Kobe Bryant's time in Colorado and the horrendous situation that occurred. She released an article, right, or reposted an article that talked about Kobe Bryant as actually having committed this particular crime, for which there was no legal finding, because after 14 months, the case was dismissed because the young woman refused to testify. We know it was complicated, as Gayle King said. We know that it was. Kobe Bryant himself admitted that. So we didn't go after that young white woman in the same venomous way that we're going after Gayle King. Gayle King is a journalist, and Gayle King must be held accountable for the things she said. She has responded in a video talking about the way in which it was extricated from a broader interview, and that her own company may have deserved her by only presenting that. But here's the point I want to make, that for Gayle King and Oprah Winfrey, who have done far more good for black people than harm, Oprah Winfrey has been assaulted as well. Oprah Winfrey, as a journalist, must be held to account as well, as she is willing to admit. She changed her mind about participation in the Russell Simmons documentary. She opened her own understanding of American Dirt, the novel that was produced, and said, I got it wrong. And so let me bring in people who are critical of some of the moments in American dirt and the impetus of a white woman to write about indigenous experiences and Latinx experiences in a way that is not profound and complicated and nuanced, and therefore is willing to say, let me change my mind and engage those people as well. So you can have legitimate critiques of Oprah Winfrey and Gayle King. You can legitimately ask them, what about their viewpoints about Harvey Weinstein and Al Franken and Charlie Rose versus a Kobe Bryant, right? That's a legitimate critique. What is not legitimate is to, in a vicious sense, assault them. This cancel culture has to be ended, has to itself be canceled. All the good that Oprah Winfrey has done, I have seen her in the home of Susan Taylor take pictures for 2 hours straight when Susan wanted to cut it off after an hour, thinking that Oprah would be inundated and unfairly treated. And Oprah insisted, I will take every picture with every black woman and man who stands in line to see me. And she dismissed them from groups. She said, no, you must have your individual picture. She has given millions of dollars to young black men in Chicago. She has supported many young black men in education at Morehouse College. So to reduce the complexity and nuance and the sweep and trajectory of her career to one event is deeply and profoundly problematic. Gayle King last year at the NBA All-Star Weekend called on me to raise what she knew would be a challenging question to Nikki Haley, who was trying to be disingenuous about her particular perspective. And I wanted to confront her in this mostly white audience. Gayle King singled me out and called upon me to challenge her. We cannot reduce the complexity and nuance and sweep of a person's career to a mistake or a choice that they make. If you want to honor Kobe Bryant, don't go online calling women bitches and hoes and skeezers and sluts and hood rats and chicken heads. If you want to honor Kobe Bryant, love black women. Black women have stood up for black men far more than black men have stood up for black women. From Ida B. Wells, who led the anti-lynching campaign, down to Susan Taylor, who's dealing with mentoring young black people, especially black boys in this society. Gayle King and Oprah Winfrey have done far more good than harm. So let's not try to demonize them and disrespect them and insult them in ways that are contradictory to what Kobe Bryant would want. If Kobe Bryant were alive, he would find this reprehensible. He would say, stop this. The black mama was not down with that. What was he about? Loving and elevating and appreciating black women. That's what we got to do. We cannot afford to continue to do this vicious thing where we hate on each other to the degree that we then dishonor the contributions that our women have made. Isn't that ironic? The very people who are talking about black people hurting other black people are hurting other black people. And if you're a black man and you want to help black people, then stop making rap records that call women out of their name. If you want to be a black man who celebrates black women, then criticize some of those rappers. And I love rap. I got a book on Jay-Z out right now. Wrote a book on Tupac, one on Nas. I love hip hop. But you got to be critical. I find it just too rich and even ironic that rappers are speaking out, some of whom I love, against Gayle King, using horrible invective against her, not understanding that we have poisoned the well of perception of black women and black people far more than anything that Gayle King and Oprah Winfrey have done. Listen to the words of Tupac. And since we all came from a woman, got our name from a woman and our game from a woman, I wonder why we take from our women, why we rape our women. Do we hate our women? I think it's time to kill for our women, time to heal our women, to be real to our women. And if we don't, we'll have a race of babies that will hate the ladies that make the babies. That's what we got to do. We got to love our women, elevate our black women, and make certain that we love them with a passion in the same way that the hate that rolls through our veins, is expressed in such venomous fashion. Be critical, yes. Hold to account, yes. But this kind of behavior is antithetical to the very love ethic that runs through our race and that black women have been willing to die for, and to establish their bona fides by defending black men far more than we had defended us. Shame on us. We got to do better.